Another great show coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, and a lot is developing on the A.J. Brown front looking ahead to free agency, which gets underway on Monday. An A.J. Brown trade price revealed by general manager Howie Roseman. We now know what Howie is asking for if a team seriously wants to consider trading for A.J. Brown. I'm also going to give you the truth about A.J. internally from some of the things that I heard at the NFL Combine and the people who I spoke with. The perception of him is much different outside of the building compared to inside the building. And if, keyword there, if the Eagles were to trade A.J. Brown, I'm going to go through some wide receiver trade targets that the Eagles could look at in the draft, in free agency, by way of trade to help make up for the loss of A.J. I do want to begin here, though. I always keep an eye on the comment section because this is an interactive show. I want people to treat the comment section like a sports talk radio call-in line, and I grew up listening to sports talk radio in Philadelphia, 94 WIP. I was an intern at 97.5 The Fanatic, and I love how people have their opinions and they let their voices be heard. That's one of the great reasons why I love hosting this show, as we're reaching millions and millions of people every single month on YouTube, and people watch this show from all across the globe. But I do find it funny that my job literally is to pass along Eagles news, to talk about the Eagles every day. And if you want to hear the truth, when I'm at the Super Bowl speaking with people who cover the NFL, who are involved in the NFL, when I'm at the NFL Combine, it's hard to go anywhere and the A.J. Brown conversation doesn't come up. This is one of the biggest stories literally across the National Football League, right alongside a potential Max Crosby trade. So I know that a lot of you are like, Chase, why are you talking about this? You want A.J. Brown traded. I have said time and time again, I don't want A.J. Brown to get dealt. But when this is a big story pertaining to the team that I cover and love, I got to talk about it here on the show. So with that, if you're a real one and you love our coverage right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, I want you to show me. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. I want at least 1,000 likes here on this show. And with that, let's talk about this A.J. Brown trade price right now. We're off and running. This is Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior, and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. An A.J. Brown trade price has been revealed by general manager Howie Roseman, as I mentioned off the rip. And when I was at the NFL Combine last week, alongside producer Chip and some homies here at Chat Sports in Indy, nobody really knew when talking about an A.J. Brown trade what the price tag was, what the Eagles were literally asking for in an A.J. Brown potential trade. And a lot of people see this logo. They watch the NFL Combine. They hear about the Combine, and they think it's just about testing. It's just about organizations meeting with prospects and potential future draft selections. That it's all about the underwear Olympics and some of the testing drills at Lucas Oil Stadium for the NFL Combine. It's not just about that. In fact, that is a small portion of what the Combine is all about. At the NFL Combine, when we're there in the city of Indy, at the convention center, at Lucas Oil Stadium, it's literally a job conference for the National Football League. It is an entire league meeting where almost every general manager is there, almost every head coach is there, coaching staffs are there, scouts are there, front office executives are there, social media teams are there for those respective organizations, but also some players are walking around. A lot of agents are there. And so a big part of the Combine, right in the lead up to free agency, some of these GMs meeting with agents, trying to work out deals, trying to work out potential trades, and having conversations about transactions and league happenings. And so coming out of the Combine, we now know what Howie Roseman wants. And while Howie was in Indy, he was probably having a bevy of conversations with a bunch of teams trying to gauge what they would be willing to give up in an A.J. Brown trade. You had A.J.'s agent, who I think was in Indy. He was definitely in contact with a lot of teams, also trying to measure what teams would be interested in A.J., trying to get a grasp of what teams A.J. could get traded to. And so this morning, Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network with this report that Howie Roseman wants a Quinnen Williams-type deal if the Eagles were to part ways with one of the top wide receivers in football. And if you remember, at the NFL trade deadline, the Dallas Cowboys made that trade with the New York Jets for Quinnen Williams, one of the top defensive tackles in the game and an All-Pro. And what that Quinnen Williams deal was, a first-round pick, a second-round sweetener, and that sweetener could involve a player as well. The asking price for AJ is high because as of right now, Howie is like all of us, right? He doesn't feel the need to trade A.J. Brown. And the Eagles are approaching the 2026 season with Sean Mannion as their new offensive coordinator, as if A.J. Brown is going to be a part of the offense when they design this scheme, put together plays, and try to get this offense back on track after a very maddening 2025 season with Kevin Patullo calling the plays. And so here's what that Quinnen Williams trade was specifically. The Dallas Cowboys received Quinnen Williams. The Jets got Mozzie Smith. Remember when Cowboys fans thought he was going to be better than Jalen Carter? Hilarious. Classic Cowboys fans. The Jets also got a second-round pick this year in 2026, but a first-round pick in 2027. Kind of easing the blow for the Jets where they're not giving up a first and a second in one draft. They can spread it out over the next two drafts. Garafolo also added, and he's very well-sourced and has a lot of connections to Philadelphia and this Eagles team, that the AJ situation is impacting how the Eagles are budgeting for free agency due to the dead money that the Eagles would have to eat if they traded AJ. Now, I've talked about this before, but let's give you a refresher as far as the A.J. Brown trade financials according to Over the Cap. The cost to trade A.J. pre-June 1, $48.9 million. The Eagles would lose $25.5 million in salary cap space. And if the Eagles traded A.J., they would get a $5.5 million cap credit for 2027. If the Eagles traded A.J. after June 1, that money can be spread out. It would be $22 and $21 million in dead money over the next 2 years. If the Eagles were to outright cut AJ, they're not going to do that because he's got a ton of value. It's not a Brandon Ayuk situation with the Niners. It would be $53 million in dead money. Now, the Eagles, of course, would have to eat that dead money pre-June 1, post-June 1, either in 2026 or spreading it out over the next 2 years, as I mentioned. But in the future down the road, because the Eagles gave AJ a contract extension going into the 2024 season, it would free up some cash flow in the future, giving the Eagles a little bit of financial wiggle room. So the dead cap number seems exorbitant. It seems like it's a lot. That's, of course, the downside. The upside is that on a team that has a very expensive offense, most cash spent in 2025, most expensive offense last year, and on defense, when the Eagles are looking at wanting to give contract extensions to the likes of Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, down the road to Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, it could free up some cash down the road. So my take on this, I've continued to say this, yet I'll still see some people down in the comment section saying, Chase, why do you want the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown? I don't want the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown. It doesn't make the offense better. It doesn't help the Eagles get closer to winning a Super Bowl because right now they're still firmly in that Super Bowl window. But Howie Roseman has always said, we'll always listen and we'll always make deals that make us better, that are in the best interest of the team. And if a deal is too good to refuse for the Eagles, where they can get a first-round pick and a second-round pick, maybe a player, they can free up some of that cash flow down the road, and they can draft a wide receiver and an offensive lineman with those selections who are cost-controlled assets for the next 4 or 5 years, it could make some sense. So today's poll question is this. If a team offered you, you're the general manager, a first-round pick and a second-round pick for A.J. Brown, would you accept that deal? Would you decline it? Let me know down in the comment section right now. I'm putting you in the shoes of Howie Roseman. Now, St. Patrick's Day is coming up just around the corner, and we have sold a bunch of these Philly drinking team shirts. I know a lot of you are going to be out and about, going on bar crawls, celebrating St. Patrick's Day, taking down some beers. So celebrate Eagles football and St. Patrick's Day with a Philly drinking team shirt. You can get those at chatsports.com/EaglesGreen. If you want to pair that with a Beers hat for St. Patrick's Day, we have those available now as well. Just says Beers across the front. And if you get the hat with the shirt, you'll be looking great for St. Patrick's Day. Here's the thing, too. You can wear these every single year. Chatsports.com/beers is the link for the hat. Kelly green is available. Black is available. A bunch of different colors. Navy blue as well. Chat Sports Beers hats are available right now if you want to party with us. Chatsports.com/beers is that link if you want to get that hat. All right, let's get to the truth about A.J. Brown. The truth about A.J. Brown is this. The way that he's perceived outside of the building on social media among people who aren't familiar with the inner workings of the Eagles organization is a lot different than how people perceive A.J. Brown inside the building. You don't become a multi-time All-Pro and one of the best players in the National Football League without putting in a lot of work. That gets noticed by your teammates, your coaches, and the front office. When A.J. Brown departed the locker room during locker room cleanout day after that wild card round loss against the Niners, I'm still not over. I'm still sick about it. What did he do with Quinnen Mitchell and Cooper DeJean? Left them signed jerseys. A.J. Brown inside the organization is beloved and respected by many people inside the organization and inside that Eagles locker room. Now, I linked up with John Middlecoff during NFL Combine Week. He used to be a scout working under Howie Roseman and Andy Reid. He's got a lot of connections to that Eagles organization. He's now the host of the 3 and Out podcast on Netflix, all platforms. It's under The Volume, which is Colin Cowherd's podcast network. He had Howie Roseman on his show last week from the NFL Combine. And here's what he said about A.J. Brown and the respect that he has garnered from inside the organization.
You know, if they wanted to trade A.J., they'd probably get a top 50 pick, right? You know, I heard some people say yesterday first, but I don't think they want to trade him. Like, they like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is well-liked in the organization. And, you know, I think it's complicated because the relationship with the quarterback, I don't, know how it's going to play out. But they're not just going to be like, oh, take him for a third. Like, you're going to have to pay to get him.
So that's from John Middlecoff, who's got a bunch of connections, front office, coaching staffs all across the NFL. There's this from Zach Berman, who we also had on the show during Combine Week, and he's been covering this team since 2012, does great work. He also has a 25-step process of what he would do if he were the general manager. It's a fantastic article on The Athletic. Be sure to check it out. One thing made clear to me, Zach said, that was reported in the below column, the A.J. Brown situation is not one brimming with animosity. In fact, I've heard and had staffers rave about Brown and his presence in the organization without prompting, too. They haven't liked the way he's been discussed in the public space, and they wanted to vouch for him. So that's pretty telling there. Now, Middlecoff had said the relationship with the quarterback, it's causing some problems potentially. Obviously, we don't know that, but it's been well documented. It hasn't been a great relationship over time, but at the end of the year, Jalen Hurts did say, our relationship is really good. Now, at the start of the show, I did say we would look at wide receiver targets who the Eagles could go after if AJ were to get dealt. So I want to go through those right now, and we're going to clip this up for a YouTube short. I'm going to put it on my social media pages as well. If the Eagles did decide to trade A.J. Brown this offseason, here are some of the top wide receivers I would target either in the draft, in free agency, or by way of a trade. In the draft, this is a deep wide receiver class, and I'd add Mekhi Lemon to this list either in the second round or the third round, but I'd be looking at Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper Jr., Jeremy Bernard, Denzel Boston, Chris Brazzell, Chris Bell, Malachi Fields, Antonio Williams, Elijah Surratt. Those are all types of different wide receivers who can play inside, outside. They have different body types, a bunch of different flavors, depending on what Howie Roseman is looking for. As for wide receiver trade targets, I would look at Brian Thomas Jr. of Jacksonville. He was unhappy there last year. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't been able to put it together, but he was looked at as a lock coming out of Ohio State. DJ Moore is another option. Michael Pittman is a player who the Colts can move on from. Keon Coleman is risky, and I spoke with the scout at the NFL Combine, and they pretty much said that some days he'll be great with Buffalo. Other days he'll just show up late. So some concerns there, and a shout-out to Zach Berman for some of those recommendations. In free agency, there's really only one player who I would look at if I'm Philadelphia, and that's Alec Pierce. He has led the NFL in receiving yards per catch each of the last 2 years. Him and Deshaun Jackson are the only two players in the National Football League ever to have 2 seasons leading the NFL in yards per catch at 20-plus yards. He's an explosive threat. He's big, he's tall, he can run well, he can go up and get it. He's got a diverse route tree. He can win against man. But in this free agency crop, it's really not a great group of wide receivers in free agency. Don't forget to give me a follow on social media. You can find me on X, Instagram, TikTok at Chase_Senior. I'm also on Facebook, Chase Senior Chat Sports. We'll be live later as well.